it's not a book report.
Sure.
It's a show. So I think we're very much in the spirit of Asimov's spirit of innovation.
Game of Thrones didn't really kick off until the Red Wedding, and that was season 3, and then people caught up with it.
There's literally, we're talking about planets and like, you know, clones. I think it's okay for a black young woman to be, you know, seeing the future.
The Foundation was created to save humanity. But the coming darkness was always the turning point.
Everyone was stunned at the season 2 finale. What can you tell me about where we pick up with Harry? Obviously, we've had this major time jump. The show is very different now, I would say, after that.
Yeah, well, so it's, I think, 150 years later. The challenge that Gail and Harry have in that intervening 150 years is they are, I forget how long, they are 100 and something years late in developing the second foundation, and they need to catch up. There's that realization that they have to catch up. They need to utilize these people that Gail has discovered who have similar abilities to her, to train them to be psychohistorians, so that they've got enough time to be able to get us to a point where we can get back on track. That's the sort of the jump in with them. And on the other side of the story, the other Harry, he's sort of pottering along, thinking that everything's sort of still developing in the way that he expected it to develop. However, he also is dealing with a really crucial piece of information that he discovered in 2, which is that he's not in control of his own thoughts even. He's been digitally altered. His consciousness has been digitally edited. And that's created an existential crisis in the character.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see the different Harrys and the kind of conflicts between them. How do you approach playing such kind of different variations of the same character?
You know, it's sort of largely detailed in the way that the scenes are created. And also, you know, one's human and the other's not yet, or maybe never will be. Who knows? I don't know what the plan is, but the Harry that isn't human has started to express a desire to become human again, to be human again. He misses the parts that of experience that make us human, and he's conceived the vault as now being a prison. And the other version of him has become human with everything that entails.
Lee, if I could start with you, a very different Brother Day this time around. How do you approach playing such different versions of almost the same character, and what did you want to bring this time around to him?
I just wanted to have a good time with him this season. That's really was the starting point, because I thought we'd seen some very serious, violent Cleons, and I just thought it would be funny if he was a very unserious Cleon who didn't particularly care about controlling the galaxy. He just wanted to get stoned with his girlfriend in the garden. That's pretty relatable, I would say, and I bet some of our viewers might know what that feels like.
There might be.
So good to give them the chance to identify with the Emperor of the Galaxy as stoned and in the garden. So yeah, I thought, and you know, given the context of the story that civilization is about to end, it's fun to think that you've got this unserious character in a very serious situation.
Absolutely, and he, I don't know what it says about me, but he felt the most human than we've kind of ever seen him before, which I really enjoyed, and I think it added an extra little layer of kind of empathy for him, I think.
Yeah, well, look, all of those Cleons have this robot messing with their minds and like standing in their way of being
devoting
human.
her life to them, guiding them,
Here we go.
raising them,
Well, come into
taking
that.
care of them.
Come into that, Laura.
Yes.
We saw a brilliant revelation last season that you really are the one behind Empire. How do we pick up with Demerzel now, and where is this season going to take her? I feel like we see a fair amount of conflict in her this season.
Yes, I also feel like she's very conflicted, and I think her having the hold of Prime Radiant, which happens in the end of season 2, kind of opens her world, but it doesn't give answers, but it gives much more questions, and kind of like, I think she also gets so, like, I don't know, stuck with the Prime Radiant and everything that it offers, that it kind of, for the first time in the history of the Cleonic dynasty, kind of lets the Cleons drift away further from her, which also opens maybe a tiny possibility of another kind of path. Who knows, maybe some kind of freedom, but would that freedom bring any joy to her? And also then the responsibility of the whole, because her programming still demands her to kind of defend the dynasty. But then also the responsibility for humanity, for the whole of humanity, like what kind of decisions we make, what. So she's really spiraling in all those kind of questions of what should she do, well, like what direction to take. And before that, I think season 1, it was much more clear and straightforward, her programming, but now it's kind of like everything is scattering around her, and she kind of is in front of huge questions. So yeah, very conflicted for her this season.
What kind of reactions have you seen from fans of the book so far? And obviously there have been quite a lot of changes, which I think massively benefit the show. But are there any kind of reassurances you would give to fans of the book about where the show might be going in future?
The book is creative. The show is also creative. So it's not a book report. Sure. It's a show. So I think we're very much in the spirit of Asimov's spirit of innovation. I mean, he was such an extraordinarily prolific writer. The first time I was aware of Isaac Asimov was this book that I've not been able to find since, where he takes all the Shakespearean plays and creates a lexicon of them. Describes what was happening in the Roman Empire at that time, during Julius Caesar. And so I think that in attempting to do Foundation, where the world that he talks about, and Foundation is a very small book, the world he talks about is an empire the size of the Roman Empire. It just makes sense to me to allow this incredibly prolific writer's catalog of work to enter into it. Yeah. All of his then explorations about robots, and so many other subjects. It feels like we can more completely do what he set out to do.
Can you tell me a bit about where we find Gail after this time jump, obviously after the death of Salva as well?
Yes, I mean, it's obviously heart-wrenching and heartbreaking, and she's kind of trying to find a reason as to why, you know, even though there's no explanation and it doesn't affect what the math is saying and where it's going and what we have to do to overcome the Mule and to, you know, save humanity. I mean, she's really battling between, like, emotional distress and, like, being emotionally attached to something and someone, and losing those people and how that affects her drive to continue on, and, like, the logical aspect of, you know, trying to save humanity. Yeah. She's in a really more powerful and controlled, and she really knows who she is now, and she's just, you know, taking that responsibility on and not shying away from it, which I think is really great, although she's probably scared out of her mind.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say she's gonna need that
I know,
that powerful
but that
nature.
motivation, you see it though, and it was really fun to play that thing of, like, self-doubt and unsureness internally, but externally, like, putting on this brave face and having people look up to her and having, you know, to really take that position, which I think is really great and really fun to do.
Yeah, I mean, she's seen so much loss, but she kind of has no choice but to carry on.
She's now a woman. She's now really, like, come into her own, and I think, for me anyway, it shows on camera. Like, I made choices to see her more mature because I wanted her to have that evolution and it to be a change and it to be a difference and a progression, you know, because you see the story through her eyes, and you grow with her, and yeah, I hope it shows
It
through
does,
that way.
100%. Yeah, it feels like we have come so far with her, sort of from Synax to, God, however many years in the future. I can't do the maths.
203, I don't know how many it was. Yeah,
it's incredible to watch. And obviously, the Mule comes in full force this season. It's kind of what we've been waiting for all this time. Obviously, there's a bit of a strange bond between him and Gail. There's, I think, quite a few parallels between the two of them. Can you tell me a bit about how you approached that and kind of how much danger Gail is in, how much danger the Mule might be in from her?
Yeah, I mean, talking to Pelio, it was interesting. His approach to it was so different to mine because he's chasing and I'm running. Gail's running, and he said it to me once, like, it was like, oh, I'm thinking about, like, in like almost like in a romantic way, like I'm obsessed with you and like I just need to know you, like not even like a malicious I need to kill you way. It was like he saw it in a different, and I didn't. For me, it was like he's the biggest danger. He is more powerful than I am, and he's more powerful than any of us will ever be. And that's a scary thought because after him, the math stops working, and what is everything that Gail has lived through, if it just ends after that? And I mean, you know, selfless death means that things can be changed, and it's really interesting to have that little bit of hope in a situation that seems so dire and horrible. And it's funny because Pilu and, that is in the Mule and Gail are so close-knit, but Pilu and I didn't really work together all this season. So yeah, it's just a really interesting dynamic. It's like this constant cat and mouse.
Yeah, I love it. As it goes on, you sort of see more and more how similar they are in some ways, and I think it's really brilliantly done. I feel like Gail also shows a little bit more of a dark side this season. I don't think it's a spoiler to say there's one moment where she particularly uses someone, which felt a very Harry Seldon thing to do to me.
I know, and this is what I mean. It's like she's making choices for the greater good of like everything, but she's making sacrifices. She's also sending people out. Like, I don't know, she's got a relationship with Han Pritchard, and that she is willing to sacrifice even him. And that's just, there's power in that. And she's not maybe going to make the right choices every single time. And maybe some of them you kind of are like, it's an anti-hero kind of thing. You kind of are like, you know, we've believed in her so beautifully as this like hero, you're always on her side. And I think it's really interesting to see the other side of what that is. And she's learned from Harry, which is, I guess, the point.
Yeah, 100%. Coming into this season, the Mule, we finally see him in full force. And he's, as we find out, an outlier. Harry can't predict anything to do with him.
It's sort of the game changer that he's always feared,
What does that mean for him? Obviously, he's got these two gigantic outliers in his life when he's used to knowing pretty much everything that's going to happen. How does that impact him?
Well, the Mule's an interesting problem because in one sense the Mule is able to unite humanity, you know, against their will. But he's able to unite humanity and could, I suppose in that sense, you lead them in a certain direction. But on the other hand, can you trust the nature of the person who's in charge of that? But I mean, also, I don't know whether he would be happy giving up that kind of agency either. Interestingly enough, you know, the Mule's ability to control people only extends towards bioorganisms. So, in some sense, the Harry that exists in the vault's immune, or one would expect to be immune. Yeah.
Obviously, we talk about it as an adaptation of Foundation, but it very much builds on the novels. What's your kind of hope for the future of the show?
Well, that sort of starts to talk about future seasons, which I don't know about.
Okay.
I mean, you know, I have no idea what their plans are. And the first and each time in each of the seasons, the first time that we as actors get an idea of what's happening is when they present us with the scripts. Then we have conversations with the writers about what we've understood about our characters up to that point, and we provide them with their insights. Sometimes those insights get into the scripts, sometimes they don't.
Was there anything you particularly collaborated on with David this season in that sense then? Any input you had?
Yeah, there was a couple of things, and one was that that I was sort of tired with the idea of Harry blindsiding Gail all the time, and I thought that we'd done that already. And also the realization is that those people tried to kill him, last season. They're not going to believe him. They're going to follow her. So the decision has to be made together. It couldn't have been one that he could have done by himself, because they aren't going to listen to him and they're not going to betray her. So it has to be a decision that the two of them came to together, and the realization that one of them has to stay awake. And on the other side of it, it's that necessarily there's a huge gap in that man's knowledge, and it means that he can't have known anything about Second Foundation, which means he couldn't have known why Raish did what he did, or that whole relationship to him has to be a complete mystery, and that the existential element has to be playing on his mind, and the desire to become human again, and the idea of having a desire for simple things like what lemonade tastes like or whatever. Those are things that you start to miss. And it without the character actually being human, it gives an idea of someone who's desiring to recover their humanity.
Really well put. Yeah, I think it's beautifully done this season, and you really do see those distinct qualities between the Harrys. A bit of a broader question. I'm a huge sci-fi fantasy fan, and obviously coming to this show, but we've seen a lot of sci-fi fantasy shows being cancelled and sort of these stories not being told. Does that, not even to do with this show, but does that worry you in terms of the stories that might not be told? I know you work very well in this space.
I mean, it's never, we're never consulted in those things. It's just something that you live with, and I don't think about it because I can't affect the outcome,
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it's just you keeping yourself awake at night for a pointless reason. There's enough to do that already. But, sometimes like with The Expanse, the fans saved it,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think the other 2 seasons they got out of it was largely because of the fan reaction. So, it can happen that they can save something or revive it in a different way. But the plan for this, as I understood it, was to have 8 seasons. If there's no way of knowing whether they'll achieve that. I mean, the only way of knowing if they'll achieve that is people tune in.
Yeah.
And if people are watching, then they'll be encouraged to make more seasons. Although in the beginning, and it used to drive me nuts, that David Goyer would refer to the show as like Game of Thrones in space or something like that. Game of Thrones didn't really kick off until the Red Wedding. And that was season 3, and then people caught up with it. So, trying to attract a fan base and an audience base towards a show takes time, and you have to allow the storytelling to catch up and the audience to catch up. And if there is a breakthrough moment, it'll either happen here, hopefully.
As I say, I've not seen the finale. How will fans be feeling at the end of this season, would you say?
I don't know. There's so many different factions on the show, and everyone's rooting for someone different. So some people might be happy. Some people might be very, very sad.
I think it's altogether it's going to be surprising. It is kind
It ends
of
with
like
a
it
big bang,
yeah.
for sure.
I can't wait. And just finally, before I run out of time, obviously the Mule is fully here in full force. How does that impact the genetic dynasty, both of your characters, the galaxy at large?
Well, he's chaos. And that's, you know, when it's a show about civilization, so it's the, you know, the two sides of it. I think it's really interesting how that chaos kind of is introduced. It's like this funny thing happening way, way, way over there. No one takes seriously. And then it gets a bit bigger, and then it gets a bit bigger, and everyone's other problems that they thought they were dealing with become incredibly insignificant because there's a tidal wave about to hit everyone. And I think that feels very true to life in a way. Like, we look around the world and we think, oh, that's a concern, that's a concern, that's a concern. And the anxiety about, oh, all of these different things. And then it's one big thing that seems to be like, holy moly, that changes everything. So that's, I think, what everyone faces in this story, is that we build a story where everyone is thinking about their own little concerns, and then way, way, way off in the back, something kind of comes up, gets bigger, 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 and everyone drops what they're doing.
There have been, since the show began, actually, quite a few changes to the book, which I think have really benefited the show. But particularly, I think, in your character, obviously, the gender swap and sort of bringing in everything to do with the mentalics. I wondered, what sort of conversations did you have with David about that? And have you sort of looked at the fan reaction to those changes? Because obviously it's such a loyal fan base.
I mean, it's really interesting because I think my character, we haven't changed anything. We've just evolved it more than what it was.
Yes.
Obviously, me being myself. But it's empowering. Like, I get messages and people just being like, it's so amazing to see someone like me in that position, which is just, it's such an honor, and I feel really grateful for it. And you don't get to see that very much in sci-fi, and I think it's a really, really smart choice from David. I know there's some people out there that are like, oh, it's too woke, and I'm like, well, what is woke when, like, it's just a reflection of the society that we live in? Like, if we weren't multicultural and, like, you know, like loads of different races and loads of different genders and all these things in between, then it wouldn't be a reflection of what the world would look like that many years in the future.
Yeah. And sci-fi has always been a place, I think, for that.
Mean,
it's the perfect place.
There's literally, we're talking about planets and, like, you know, clones. I think it's okay for a black young woman to be, you know, seeing the future.
I think
in a
so.
sci-fi. I think we're good.
That's really well put, thank you. David has confirmed this is his final season on the show, and I just wondered, sort of considering that, what are your hopes for the future of it? I haven't seen how this one ends, so I'm hoping for more.
Listen, I'm hoping for more. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's been wonderful to work with David. His vision is amazing, and his vision will continue on, hopefully, if we get to continue on. But for now, I mean, season 3 hasn't even come out yet.
I know, I'm
which
a
is
bit early
crazy.
asking that.
I feel like I've watched it. I've watched it so many times already. It hasn't even come out yet. So, you know, we'll get through that. See how that goes, which I'm hoping will be amazing. And, like, whether, you know, more people watch it or the same people that are following it watch it, or just that one person that, like, it impacts and it, like, really affects in a great way, watches it, like, that's good enough for me.